Well, hello, everybody. I'm Ed Parcaut. I'm here with Brian Galke.
Hey, everybody.
Is that right? Galke?
Galke, unlike Steve, who I just spent the last 2 days with, who's Brian Galke.
Well, that's English accent. What do you want?
Yeah.
Could be worse. He could call you what he calls me. But
That's
anyway,
true. We sent you a video. We sent you a video of it.
Yeah, and I told you really original.
I know. And poor Manoj caught the rest of the flack since you weren't there.
Well, I don't always. Yeah, he's just equal opportunity person.
So. Yes, he hates everyone equally.
That's
anyway.
Right. All right, today we've been talking about prospecting, and Tuesdays was a little bit later. I wanted to run it a little bit later in the day because you were at the speakeasy, right? And you can't be two places at once, but it was about niche prospecting, and that's kind of what we're doing today. So the joker we have today, which is, again, Aces53 is attitude, commitment, enthusiasm, smile, and the 53 is the joker, which is the unique wild card, your unique ability that you bring to the table. And we wanted to bring in our joker today, which is Todd Su from Advantage Homes, because he's in a very niche market, which is manufactured homes. Right. Some people think mobile, but that's not the term these days. And I wanted to, it's so niche that everybody says the riches are in the niches. It's really hard to niche down if most people think they can't. Well, this is somebody who's did that. And I want to bring him in and let's talk about how he does it, and we'll go from there. Sound good, Brian? I'll bring him in. All right. I'm going to make this even. There he is.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Okay. Todd, you're breaking up a little bit there.
Any good?
No,
that's usually me.
Are you still part of Realty World?
Yeah, I own both companies, Advantage Homes and Realty World. My wife has me 2 jobs to stay to make sure I keep up with the bills.
Yeah, your wife is a go-getter, so yeah, I'm sure she keeps you going.
Yeah, I'm the pretty one. You know that, right?
Yes, she is. She is the pretty one.
Hey. So I heard I'm the joker. So
yeah, so that's the wild card in the deck, right? So that's the first joker is the 53rd in the deck. That's why we call it Aces 53. What you don't know is when I was in college, one of my sales guys was like, okay, the instructor was like, okay, remember this: 4 aces and a joker. Aces is attitude, commitment, enthusiasm, smile. The joker is that unique ability you bring to sales, whatever that is, whether you learn it or it's a natural thing in you. And that's what we talk about on Thursdays. We bring a joker in and talk about how they became that, right? Because you're and we've been talking about niche marketing, and I wanted to bring up about what you do because you're Advantage Homes, which is a very niche market of what you do.
Yeah, no, definitely a niche market. And in fact, a lot of my friends and family, they give me a hard time. A lot of times they're like, why didn't you do a lot more mainstream real estate? Why did you get into, at that time they called them trailers quite often. They're like, you're doing trailers. You do a fantastic job on $1 million homes. What are you doing? And I think it's just the passion wasn't there with a lot of the residential all the time. Just from the background that I came up in, it's just different. Obviously, doing what you really like to do, helping those who trying to come up where I did, where my family came from, of being on welfare. And I remember driving my '77 Datsun B210 with honeycomb rims and having to pour water in it every morning because it wouldn't hold water in the exhaust. I mean, that's where we kind of came from. So seeing people, helping people take that first step is always, an awesome thing for me. You can almost hear my voice kind of go up as I talk about that. It's quite enjoyable trying to figure out what your niche is.
All right. I want to ask you to do one thing for us while we're talking. Open another browser behind you, type in the word test, and test your browser so it will test your internet speed, and it'll force your provider to up it a little quick while we're talking. But back to the statement about putting water in the exhaust. Maybe that was your problem. You should have been putting it in the radiator. That's where it normally goes.
I think it was a banana in the exhaust, but that I think
yes.
Yeah, the banana in the bike. So that was the Beverly Hills Billies. Beverly Hills Cop, right? They put a banana in the exhaust pipe.
Well, so it's interesting you say where you came from. Literally at the event I was at this week, Brad Sumrock was on, and he does apartment investing, right? Like multi-doors, multi-family. Very similar story. He remembers growing up, kind of family barely able to get by. They went on one trip a year type thing. And same thing, Grant Cardone, you listen to his. it seems like a lot of people that were in real estate, most of the people who are successful started with a troubled or challenging beginning. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. I remember cleaning toilets on the weekends at the gas station across from my high school. And back then there was full service. I don't know the kids these days, they know what full service is, but people would pull into the station. You put air in the tires, you check the oil for them, you clean the windshield, and that was standard. And you didn't expect anything extra for that. They'd actually pay a little bit extra. I think maybe 10 or 20 cents extra a gallon to be able to get full service. You'd hear the ding ding as you'd walk through, but it'd be good. And my friends used to make fun of me. They'd come in after going out and having fun with their friends, and they'd see me, in my little gas cap and in my uniform, and they're like, "Hey, you should be out with us." And I'm like, driving their new Mustang, turbo, and I'm sitting there, cleaning toilets. And I just remember that, and obviously today I get to drive the nice car, so it feels so vindicated.
All I can think about is Ice Baby for some reason with what you just said. Mustang.
Yeah, well, they were on in their 5.0, so you are correct. It was a Mustang in the song.
Yeah, I know. I am correct with those things. I have that useless knowledge in this head from all the time that I didn't get to do much because I had no money as a kid.
I think we just lost half of the demographic. What's your age group that we're broadcasting to? Half of them.
Dude, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Every kid out there had to listen to their parents' 80s and 90s music. What are you talking about? Yeah. And that's why my kids know so much about the 80s music, because they had to listen to it in the vehicle with most of the 80s and 90s.
And it's still a song that shows up at weddings and all kinds of stuff. So, now if you really want something kind of funny, you can go and Google when he joined because he's from Dallas, at least at one point he lived in
Dallas.
Dallas.
Talking
about? Vanilla Ice.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Yeah. Robbie Van Winkle or whatever he called himself, but he grew up in a part of Dallas at one point. But, now you made me lose my train of thought. Oh, he joined a hardcore rock group for a little bit. And so there is a heavy metal version of Ice Baby. And then ironically, he invests in properties and real estate now as well with JT Fox.
He's been flipping homes for a long time.
Yeah. He even had a TV show about it for a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See
how we get off subject so easily. Yeah.
Yes.
Very butterfly.
Yeah.
Squirrel.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, but a lot of us in business and having companies and do stuff, we come from nothing. And, where people think that people, you made it, it's 15 years or 20 years of hard work to get here. Mm-hmm. We didn't have anything handed to us.
That's right.
A couple pink slips a few times, but other than that,
too soon.
No, it's like, I can't work for anybody else. There's a reason I can't work for other people.
Exactly.
Yeah. I remember one of my bosses was like, I don't really understand you because I don't know what you're thinking. That's okay. This is me happy. This is me sad. Nobody knows what I'm thinking. So.
All right. So back to prospecting. So being that, Todd, you got into a special niche, right, within the real estate world. So you mentioned earlier that you started by selling larger homes. And then when you started to go this direction with your business, how did you have to market and reach an audience differently than what you did before?
So it's actually the reverse. When I got into the business, I actually started doing cars for about a month, and I figured out that I liked the people side of the business, but I didn't like the business itself. I felt like there wasn't a lot to it personally. But I like the sales side, and I like the relationships. But I accidentally happened into the business in that I was looking for a real estate job, but I ended up getting hired by a mobile home company. The guy said that I'd be selling homes, and the next day he says, "Well, you know what? You're going to be getting an HCD's license." And I go, "No, isn't it a realtor's license?" "No, you're going to be selling mobile homes." "Well, no, you told me I was going to be selling homes." "A mobile home is a home, Todd." So, flash forward, 6 months later, and I'm making six figures as a 22-year-old, 22, 23-year-old, just learning the ropes and getting into sales. And a couple years later, opening up my own business. So so we kind of graduated into single family homes. Once a lot of the people bought mobile homes and ended up buying single family homes. But what people started to tell me was, well, you're so good at selling single family homes. Why don't you do more single family homes than, mobile homes? Because they felt like there's a little bit of a stigma to it, right? That, you're not that good if you're selling, mobile homes or manufactured homes. I embraced it. I felt like I helped people go from one level to the next. People who, especially in some of the high-end areas, like where I started, San Jose, where people are making $100,000, they can't buy a single-family home in this area. You've got to be making $200,000 to $300,000, and those people who are, that are technicians, people who are working hair salons, nail salons, they needed a home to purchase, and they were going to be stuck renting the rest of their lives unless I entered into the picture and tried to help a lot of those, understand that this is a good stepping stone for you. If you get this, then the next step is you're going to buy a single-family home in the future.
Yeah, it's a unique purchase, and it's a unique market for that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people don't. Do you mind telling people? They're going to hear manufactured home, mobile home. They're about ready to turn us off. But do you mind telling people what volume you guys do a year, so people understand how big you guys really are and what your company is?
Yeah, we sell anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000 manufactured homes, resale and brand new. We've probably, I would say over 900,000 homes sold in the last 25 years, probably. Yeah. So
he's a big dude. You wouldn't know that by us meeting him through where we met him. You would think he was just a normal guy.
Yeah, that's why I get the one screen and you guys have two. So I'm so big that I can barely.
You get
fit.
one.
Yeah.
We're stuck up together. What are you talking about? You get the bottom.
I'm trying to look skinny, and then you guys are making me look bigger. Thank you.
Well, if, you would, with what volume you do, you'd think you'd be able to connect right into a router so that you would have better Wi-Fi.
Ed's a network snob.
No, I'm just doing this so much that it's like I want people to be able to hear you and see you. And sometimes what people don't realize, I've done this for 3 years now. It seems like turn your Wi-Fi off, connect directly to your router, and you have the best signal you can ever have, and it's a better time for everybody. But we're going to go with what we have.
Pavlov's dog. Before I get on with Ed, I'm like, okay, let me go test my internet. Let me make sure my Wi-Fi is off. Let me go shut everything down. I don't want to get yelled at, Dad.
Well, reboot my server, my router.
Oh, is there something better than American Online? It kind of goes the beep, beep, beep.
You mean AOL? Yeah, that's definitely an age thing now. I ran into somebody the other day had an AOL. I was like, you still have this account? Okay, time to move on. All right, so with that volume, that's a lot of volume. How do you reach out to potential buyers?
We've been pretty established. I want to say early in the game. I think we marketed to mobile home communities, people who lived in mobile home parks. That's kind of how we started. But as we grew, we kind of marketed to a lot of apartment, people who are living in apartments, and they don't realize that this is an opportunity out there. That jump from renter to single family home in a lot of the higher end areas, such as Northern and Southern California, like LA and San Jose, that's too big a step for some. So they need that extra step where they get that tax write-off or that tax benefit or some potential upside on the mobile homes. I remember when I first started in the business, I think we had spoken maybe a day or two ago. I think, Ed, we were talking about the fact that mobile homes, people would say they go down in value, or you would break even, or you lose some money. But that's completely the opposite. In the last 25 years, people have bought manufactured homes, let's say for $100,000, and they've gone up by $150,000, $200,000. So there's equity actually that's grown from these mobile homes. So you feel real good, getting them into that as a first stepping stone to get the tax write-off. And if there's appreciation involved, there's a huge area where they can actually have, an extra couple $100,000 for down payment 5 years later. And I've got countless stories of people just crying and saying, oh my gosh, you sold us our mobile home. Now we've got, $200,000 to put down on a regular single family home. Now we went from let's say a $600,000 single family home, and now it's worth $1 million. And I have like $700,000 worth of equity that I never would have had if I never bought a mobile home from you. So it's pretty exciting just to be able to see people and kind of, get their future in the right direction without them even knowing it. So that's what excites me, just kind of getting people in the right direction, giving them opportunity to own a home. These days, that's the dream, right? Yeah. And it sucks to have to move out of the area or move out of state in order to own one. So
there was so I'm ignorant to this kind of whole process, but I was at a real estate event
in general.
Time. What's that?
He said you're ignorant, and I said in general.
Yes, in general, but particularly on this. So you sold 900,000 units. How many are investors that will turn around and rent them out versus how do you help somebody? If somebody comes to you to buy one, do you sell them land and you help them get a house? Do they already have land? How does that process work?
Yeah, it's for chattel parks, they do not allow rentals actually. Okay. 95% of communities is owner occupied. So it's not something where you go and fix and flip homes. That's not a common thing. The community are
Todd, what's a chattel? For people listening, what's a chattel?
It's like personal property. It's not going to be on foundation. It's that's going to be
like a leasehold estate kind of thing. Exactly. Chattel. Yeah. Okay. It's not what you call your wife.
I won't go down that road. I want to stay married. Thanks. Yeah. But anyways, so in these parks and communities, they're mostly like with tennis courts, basketball courts, swimming pools. So they're nicer communities. They're not really trailer parks or anything like that. Mobile home communities is what we do a lot of the sales. So there's not a lot of fixing and flipping, and people aren't doing it as investments. They don't own like multiple homes. If they run your credit, Brian, and you buy one and they see that you have a mortgage, like, we know that Ed owns like 30 houses all over the country and 50 houses in Vegas, And so, he wouldn't get approved.
Got a wife.
He wouldn't get approved. He wouldn't be approved in any of these communities because they know that he wouldn't be really living there. So they kind of vet you out and make sure that you're going to be living there, because they don't want, for undesirable people and arbitrage these days. People rent out to somebody else, and it's just a mess for them. And it costs them, $10,000 to $20,000 to get rid of these people. So you get a squatter in and you're in big trouble.
So for somebody who's not in the industry like me, and for some of the listeners who may not be, it's almost like a condo building where they have an HOA that says, hey, you can't use these as Airbnb or short-term rentals. They're trying to create a community itself, and you have all the amenities of it, a basketball court and things like you mentioned.
Yeah. And in the past, there were a lot of like, card groups and, where it's older folks, but it's kind of changed. The demographics completely flipped. When I first got in the business, it was pretty much a lot of seniors, all affordable housing. Now you got a lot of the younger crowd moving in because they can't afford anything else. So now you've got, this is their very first home, husband and a wife, technician, one person's, making 50 grand, the other person's making 50 grand. And they just want something to call home. And a lot of these days in a lot of our areas, a lot of the apartments, you park outside, you get your car broken into, and you don't even have your own parking. So a lot of these communities, you have your own parking. You don't have shared walls. So it's a place to call home. And a lot of these communities, I wouldn't mind my wife walking out in the evening, after dinner, taking a walk. It's safe enough that it is really a community. People get to know each other. But the whole demographics changed. It went from all seniors to now the younger baby boomers. And in the nicer areas, I have like the Google and Apple folks. They end up buying brand new ones, like tricking them out, spending $200,000 or $300,000 and not caring, because they know they're going to move the next year. So they spend a ton of money on just upgrading and making it, their nice spot, and they don't care if they lose a little bit of money. So,
well, then with it having such a diverse type of people buying the properties, how do you market? Like, how do you go prospecting? Are you going out and looking for people who are entry level at positions? Are you then looking at once somebody hits a certain, like if they get their AARP card, how do you go prospecting for your niche?
Brian's looking to see if you're going to send him a thing when he gets his card.
Hey, I'm only 48.
They do 2 years prior to turning 50 or anything else. You don't have to wait until you're 50, whatever the age is, to get it. You can get it.
I already have an AARP card. You know why? You get discounts in hotels are sometimes better than AAA.
Do me a favor, Todd. Do that test thing one more time before you start talking.
Let's see. Let's see here.
You got a little. You sound like you were a computer talking.
What's it called? He was doing the sound effect. What's the one that everybody said ruined the music industry?
Synthesizer.
Yeah, the synthesizer.
Herbie Hancock.
50 megabits per second.
Yeah, well, that just once it stops, start talking. Once it stops doing it. All right.
Right back to it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. There we go. Is it a little bit better?
The sound's better. Yeah, you're still. We think we're talking to nobody.
Yeah,
but you're somebody, so don't worry about it. I was surprised
on and talk about AI, because that's kind of what he looks like right now.
Well, And back to your statement, I was surprised to find out that most of these parks don't allow people, you have to be owner occupied, which is good because rentals in even regular neighborhoods change the look of the neighborhoods. And that's how I feel. I know there's a lot of investors who want to buy a lot of houses and stuff. Well, fine, buy apartments, buy multifamily, buy those kind of things. The single family homes for me should be a family who can actually own it and live there so that the actual neighborhoods stay the same. But a lot of the people that Todd goes after would have to commute 2.5 to 3 hours to get to be able to afford a home if they didn't have this manufactured home in their community.
Yeah. Going back to your question, Brian, about how do we market? I think originally, I know the kids these days they've never heard of this term, but it's called cold calling and door knocking. I know. At least the kids these days don't know what we went through to first start, but obviously now we're established as the largest in California with all our locations. So a lot of people come to us for a lot of the business, but back in the day, we did a lot of door knocking. We did a lot of cold calling and just prospecting into apartments. And, but these days now you get with different moving companies that are associated with these high-tech companies. And sometimes you'll get special accounts where they'll refer you some business. But in general, we're kind of known in the industry for it, and we've got probably maybe 200 signs out there right now that we get calls on all over. So we do get a lot of leads of people who are looking into the communities, just looking for a home. And then obviously some of the social media stuff. We have a lot of our agents now post on on TikTok, and they'll show a new manufactured home coming in. They're like, well, what's that? Kind of thing. So it's pretty interesting.
I always heard, and the reason I asked earlier about are they owner or are they owned by an individual who rents them out is there was a term I heard a long time ago, and it was a guy who made all of his money off owning parks, and he called them tin cans that spit cash. And because he said even if somebody has a beautiful home, they were renting the land from him. So if somebody, when they moved, he'd make an offer to buy their house. And if they didn't want to, and they wanted to sell it to another individual, it still worked out. But either way, he was win-win. And it was what I heard a guy talk about for a little bit. And that's my low-level knowledge of this subject. So I was curious.
Yeah, mobile home park purchases are great. I've organized some syndications that have been very, very profitable doing it. So there's a huge cash flow. I mean, you got minimal people being involved. You got a park manager and a landscaper pretty much, and that's it. It's pretty low maintenance compared to, let's say you're renting an apartment and you got a lot of people moving in and out. You've got very little movement in and out of mobile home communities. Probably maybe RV parks and that such, probably you have a little bit more, but mobile home communities are pretty stable. So I would say it's a very, very strong market and something I'm trying to grow personally. I think one of our mutual friends, it's Turner, also is a big fan of mobile home communities and investing in mobile home communities. But a lot of his stuff is more back east, where it's a lot more common, where it's back east, and they do a lot of business where it's, in parks that they do allow rentals, and they're more trailer park geared towards that type of clientele.
Right.
Yeah, because they don't want to be in California because they're worried about rental issues, right? The landlord and rental laws that are coming into effect. But with what you're saying, most of these parks you have to live there anyway. You can't rent it, so it doesn't come into play. But manufactured mobile, the parks. I'll get the word out in a second. Are amazing to buy because during lulls and recessions, they make more money. That's why I think Berkshire Hathaway owns like 65%, some ridiculous amount of numbers of them.
Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway, they have their hands in all the way around in the business. They've got the financing side, they've got the manufacturer side, which is Clayton. They've got their hand in parks also, and then obviously on the real estate side. And then they even do a lot of the supply chain in the manufactured homes. So they've got their hand in all of it. So they know that this particular market is a very good market to invest in. It's very stable. Unlike my internet connection.
Yeah.
Next time you do a syndication, let us know.
Yeah.
Of another one.
So I know you and Ed have talked quite a bit the last few days. You guys met up for lunch and then some other things you've been working on. So I'll monopolize you on this conversation. But you mentioned you've been doing it for 15 years. Last
25.
year you talked about
25, dude.
Oh, sorry, 25 years. I want him to seem younger. 900,000 units. When you were getting started, how did you do your prospecting then versus how you do it now? You just mentioned that now you go to apartments, you talk to movers, the communities themselves are a desired thing. So people come in. Look, we chased that away. Sorry, Ed, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. I know you're fragile. How did you get started doing it? Because there's a lot of people that jump into, like you said, you went and worked there first. They said you're going to sell homes. Then they said, okay, it'll be a mobile home, still a home. How did you grow your business to where you are today?
I didn't do a lot of advertising, like print media advertising or anything like that. I'm a strong believer in word of mouth. Now, I didn't believe that when I first started, but word does spread, and the best type of leads are warm leads. And if you can create, I remember one family, I went to their house. They were in a studio, a husband and wife and 6 kids living in a one bedroom studio, basically a studio. And over the years, I sold that family, the husband and wife, I sold one home to, a mobile home to, and the 6 other kids they had, I sold the mobile home to every single child that lived in the home over the years. And then half of them bought single family homes from me. So I probably could afford to put a down payment on a house from all of the commissions that I got off of that one family. So I'm living proof that you can start from nothing, not have a lot of money to put to advertising, and just get a referral base and just keep that networking going. Because I didn't have anyone to back me.
So it's you would say relationship selling is the key versus transactional selling, right?
Yeah. You brought up an interesting part of that, and that is you help them get into entry level. So I'm going to how credit cards work with college campuses. They did a study that found out that whatever credit card they got as their very first credit card, they tend to stick with for like 20 years. Is that what you're finding is with you, is that you help someone and they're so appreciative because you do a good job that when they're ready even to move out of that field, do they still reach out to you for their next home as well?
Yeah, it's funny. I used to see that little sign. I don't know if you guys seen these little license plate, realtor for life or whatever. And I thought that was like the stupidest thing I'd ever seen. And then I realized that it actually is a thing. I mean, I've even told people they started out buying a mobile home from me. They ended up buying a single family home from me. And some of these people, they ended up buying restaurants and businesses. They ended up running these businesses. And after maybe about 10 years, I had people that had bought regular single family homes. Hey, you know what? Can you sell my restaurant? I go, well, I don't know how to sell a restaurant. And they go, but we trust you, Todd. Go do it, and we'll figure it out together. So now I'm selling restaurants, and then all of a sudden they own restaurants, and now they want a warehouse. And I'm like, I don't know how to sell commercial property. Well, we trust you, Todd. Why don't you do your first one with us? Now I'm doing, now I'm selling businesses. Now I'm selling, commercial warehouses for them. Now they're one of the guys now owns like 13 or 15 restaurants in the area. Now he's a good friend, and he bought his first mobile home from me. So that's kind of where it says, realtor for life. If you do it right, you can keep on going through the progressions, and people just trust you all the way. Right. So
I think it goes to about relationship selling. That's all I keep hearing is building relationships with people. Don't focus on selling.
I'm going to throw out a humble brag for you that I stole off of LinkedIn. So you're ranked as in the top 10 realtors in California for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Wow. That says a lot. California, it's such a small, tiny state. It's not that big a deal, right?
We're a third of everything gets done here. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, they say the top 2% do a lot of the business. So in every niche, it's kind of the same thing. That
is correct. But congratulations there, Todd.
Thank you.
And when your books come out, let me know. Oh, thanks for bringing it. They can't see it. Yes, my book came out. Thank you, Financial Freedom.
What can't they see? Is it that?
Yeah, get Ed's book.
edsbook.com.
Yeah, he's actually got a hard copy, an author copy. When he came by, I signed it. It's hard to see.
I've got a cool signed copy too. Thank you. Congratulations on your book, Ed.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Can I get my 5 later that you promised me?
Yeah. $5. Yeah.
Yes.
Come back over. I'll buy you lunch this time.
Yes. That book is amazing. Like if you have uneven tables or you need a coaster to put your drinks on. I mean, it's a fantastic thing.
Yeah, I've used it on the plane. I mean, it's a nice kind of headrest too.
It's
very functional.
Thank you so much for that. Actually, it's a great book for first-time home buyers. It's a great book for you if you haven't bought a house in a long time. There's updated stuff on there that most people don't even realize. So it'll even help your people there, Todd. All right. Anything else we want to add today? Because I think we're talking about niche prospecting, niche markets, but it boils down to, for what I'm hearing, is building relationships with the people. Once you realize sales is a relationship business and not a transactional business, you're going to do very well.
Well, it's what you said earlier. If it's the warm leads are coming to you, that is what says it. Anybody can win the initial attempt to business, right? But then when you're doing such a good job that leads to warm leads, that's when you've hit your sweet spot. Right. And it is interesting what you brought up earlier of, even though you could go out and do $1 million homes, right? You've done other things. This is what you found both to be fruitful for you personally and professionally, right? And that is, it's not always about, I have to make so much on one transaction, but if I can help more people, I still win in the long run and I walk away with a better feeling. That's amazing.
Yeah, very much so.
I mean, not just financially, but it's emotionally, it's rewarding. And it just feels good to do it. It's easy to say. I mean, when I first started, it wasn't that the way. You're trying to survive. You're trying to pay rent for next month, and you got to do and say what you got to do to make it. But once you start making it a little bit, and you're able to take the foot off a little bit and be able to just help people. Once they realize that all you're doing is just trying to guide them rather than trying to make a sale, it makes all the difference in the world.
Right. It's that old saying, they don't know how much you care until they know how much. What is that saying?
Nobody cares until they know how much you care.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
But it's built in trust. I mean, when you have a warm lead, you have something built in that you can't earn, which is trust. They trust you already from the referral. And that's what's so important about staying in contact with your past clients, staying in contact with everybody. Keep calling them through after the transaction. Don't be done. Call them and ask them why they worked with you. Ask them, that whole stuff. It's make sure you take care of your clients as a relationship. And that's what it's all about.
There was another company that was at the Speakeasy this week who they're small. And I don't want to give away the name because we're going to have them on the podcast in the future, but that's how they've grown leaps and bounds. They went from 10 customers 3 or 4 years ago to now, I think it was, they were 25,000 users or 10,000 users, helping over 25,000 businesses. But it was exactly what you said. They listened. They asked their customers, what do they need? They were open and honest with the transactions. And because of doing that, a majority of their leads came in as warm leads instead of having to chase marketing and cold people who had no idea where they were. And they would actually ask customers, what problems do you have? What does our software not have? And they would look to see if they could develop it. So it's very much in line with what Todd was just saying.
Yeah, and they did. It's amazing software they have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my first boss, he said something that I always remember. He was like, "Well, you know what? The answers are always there. You just got to listen. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen twice and speak only once, and then you'll be all right." So I've always kind of used that as a term. I think that also works in dating too, but I'm not really sure. You might be able to tell me that a little bit better, Ed. But
and relationships in general. Yeah,
we've talked about how you work with movers, apartments. What type of events do you go and attend just to also let people know about your business?
I think first-time buyers events where they never really thought about it. A lot of people go to first-time buyers events trying to figure out how to do their first FHA loan. They're trying to figure out how to do, 5%. And they go, do 5%, 3% of, $1 million. That's 20% down for a manufactured home. So then they go, oh, wow, no PMI and I get my own place. They don't really think about it. So instead of us just completely marketing, manufactured homes or mobile homes, we just say first-time buyers, come see us. And then once they get into that, we get into the secondary level where we go, well, you know what? Have you ever thought about a manufactured home? And then they'll see, like in the background, they'll see a house like that and they'll go, that's a manufactured home? That's incredible, right? They won't know. So now they open their mind up to that. And usually a lot of our clients, though, are people that have a friend that's lived in a manufactured home, and they'll come over and they'll go, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. I never even knew. I couldn't even tell this was a manufactured home. And so that's usually the kind of first time thing. And that's how it came about. once we get the word out there that they know what the product is,
Mhm.
they're all over it and they understand it.
Can you, with your business, and we'll pop it back up here, do you only sell in California? Can you sell across the US?
I can. We've kind of been asked to open up offices. We have some former employees that have moved out of the area,
Mhm.
like Florida, Arizona, that we've thought about opening up. But to be completely honest, my kids are 11 and 14 now, so they're getting to the age. But the last 5 and the next 3 years, I was planning on spending more time with them.
Right.
So I like to kind of be able to feel and touch what we have. And
Mhm.
I didn't want that to get interrupted. So all my co-locations, all of my wife and I's locations, where it's within an hour and a half flight everywhere. So it's easy for me to go without a second thought. But when you start going all the way to Florida, you're talking about 5 hours, 4 hours, going to Chicago or whatever. I just didn't want to put it out there to spend that extra time because I wanted to dedicate to kids. My dad wasn't there for me when I was a kid, so I wanted to be able to be there for mine. So, but we're getting close to that age, and we're kind of excited. We actually, in the next couple of years, we're planning expansion out of the area to some other states in the United States. So it'll be fun.
We should talk because I'm working on 5 states myself right now.
Oh, there you go. One more curiosity question for you. Whenever the lockdown happened, a lot of people, I'll come up with something else. A lot of people decided, well, if I'm going to work remote, I'm going to go get an RV. I'm going to downsize my house. Did you start working with RV dealerships or anything like that for people who are looking to downsize and go travel but still have a home base? Was that a large part of your clientele or not really?
No, that's not a part of our main clientele. It's been something that's been a growing market though. Mm-hmm. And we've seen the recreational vehicle and the like the KOAs and mm-hmm. the temporary overnight for a week, 2 weeks, a month travel sites just completely mm-hmm. boom. I have a good friend that's the CEO of 1,000 Trails and some of these other outfits that, oh my gosh, they picked up all these communities thinking, this is just going to be good income. Now it's a luxury, right? Now you go to a KOA, it's $300 a night. It's not, hey, you know what? It's just because you just want to rough it at night. It's a luxury glamping these days. So that's a big trend, and those communities have really double and triple their revenue just because it's such a big fad. And even some of the high tech guys, they don't even own a home. They park mm-hmm. them for 3 months, 6 months, or whatever, and then they go travel wherever and they work remotely. As long as they got good internet, right? So
right.
Because I have some people that are buying stuff up in Twain Harte and other places, and then they have a RV that they sleep in at work. And I ain't gonna say the company, but it allows them to park it in their parking lot. So they can stay there while they're working during the week, and then they go home on the weekends.
Yeah, some of my close friends that are in that particular industry, they've kind of had the same problem that the regular cars have had. They mm-hmm. couldn't produce them fast enough, right? So it was amazing. There was this huge backlog of people having to wait like months and months because during COVID, everybody just wanted to travel because they felt it was safer and they wanted to have their own place and that was the best alternative to get around. So it was amazing how that market just exploded. So,
sure.
Right. I'm waiting for it to fall apart so I can pick up an RV real quick, real cheap.
Oh, there'll be a lot of those lake houses.
No, they're not going to be lake houses.
You'd be surprised. I think, out here in Dallas,
Texas,
not out where y'all are, but where we are. Yeah.
That's a totally different reason. That has to do with property taxes. So darn expensive.
Well, all these California people keep coming out here too, screwing it all up.
And we'll talk about that. I'm going to stick on our topic because we've been here.
I know.
And Todd,
yes.
What would you say is your number? Would you say, I'm going to state it and I just want, you can say yes or no, or you can go further, but the relationship selling, sorry, I have a frog. The relationship selling is what built your business. And that's kind of where you stay at. Is that correct?
Yeah. And people always say, oh, why don't you spend more money on advertising? Why don't you, get into social media? We've never had to. Mm-hmm. I mean, people say, hey, it took you, 15 years to get onto Facebook. It took you, 10 years to get onto TikTok. I mean, it's not my thing. And plus I don't dance very well. So, I mean, that's an issue as well. So I think with relationships, it started with, just one person telling another person, And like we talked about, those warm leads are really what you want. Anybody can spend all these monies, people calling you out of the blue, and you've got to sell them on who you are as a person and understand if you're a good person or not, whether you've done a good job. I mean, I've seen some reviews that Ed has on some of his stuff, right? And, when you have somebody say, this person's done a great job for me on the loan, and that person's telling somebody else, you don't have to say who Ed is or say who Todd is or say who Brian is. All you're doing is saying, hey, this is a good idea. Oh, really? Okay, let's just go ahead and do it. That's really where you want your customers coming from. You don't want that person going, hey, I saw you in the yellow pages and I looked you up and I'm thinking about buying a place. Who are you, by the way? And you have to introduce yourself. I think a good friend of ours, Steve, he always says it's always good to be introduced by someone else.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
And for those of you who don't understand, but the Yellow Pages was a book that you were in that you could actually look up people's phone numbers and their businesses in. Just throw that little out there.
Can we start talking about Vanilla Ice again? And
yes,
ice, baby.
And AOL. We might as well just bring them all back in again.
But I mean, what I look at social media, all this other stuff that we're doing, that is another form of direct mail. It's just in a different way. It's the same thing we used to do when we were, we have ads on billboards. We'd have ads everywhere, but people would do bus stops. I never believed in that. But other things avenue is just one more thing you need to add to your plate so you have it. You don't have to put everything into it. Even though some people can put everything into it and build their business, most businesses don't work that way. And you do want to work with the warm leads because there's that trust built in. You don't have to sell yourself over and over again. And these people don't trust you. I went through that for 6 months. I was doing this thing with this company, and it was unique getting back into selling regular leads coming when, that you were creating through Facebook, other things. They don't know who you are. They don't know anything about you yet. You spend half your time selling who you are. And then that's what helped me with having my website the way it is, my personal website, having the book, or the radio show, the documentary and stuff that I was in, that people could see I was authority in the industry, but not everybody has that.
Right.
So.
I mean, I don't know if you guys remember that there was this Asian guy that you would see at like 2 a.m. 2 a.m. And he'd say, come to my seminar. Yeah, come to my seminar. He'd have a yacht and he'd have like 20 beautiful women behind him. I feel like to me, I mean, I'm old school, and I'm just like, I see that, and I remember, I feel like TikTok and all of these social media things is the same thing except repackaged into a quick version of it.
Gotcha.
And then just like, that's just
infomercial.
Bingo, infomercial. That's what I feel like it is. And I don't think you get to know people like that anymore. That's not the way you should get to know people. And you feel like you know them by just seeing their personality on TikTok, them dancing and being awesome. But yeah, it feels like it's very, very surface level. It's not.
It is interesting to see for the real estate industry how people, it's not about dancing, but about how do I show a home to build interest in the home itself versus me as a realtor or something. Like I see them all the time, they're using drone footage real fast on TikTok to try and sell a house instead of just using MLS. So it's interesting.
They use it all.
Yeah.
I wanted to thank you, Ed. You turned me, and I had heard from some other people about this, but you really when I came to see you, we really talked about it, and talking about like a warm lead or someone you trust that you talk to. I started digging deep into Chat GPT.
Oh no!
And I was like, man, this is blowing my mind. I was like, what is this? And then you had told me, Brian's into it now too, and I'm like, man, this is like the next thing. I mean, this is probably another conversation for us to have, but it's amazing how, just to kind of think how this is going to evolve. And now I've dug into it, and I've talked to a couple of friends that are really deep into it. That is just the next wave of the future. I know we're going down a tangent now, but
no, but it's great.
Talked about that this week, and he talked for an hour about it's going to help people write better, but then the important part is how do you help turn it into a story? So it's right now, what did he say, that it doesn't touch the live internet? It's everything from 2021 and up. But you have to know what's that? Yeah, sorry, 2021 and back. you have to know what questions to ask it to tailor the information back. But then how do you turn it into a story that people will understand? Because again, it's not always about facts and figures. It's how do you tell the story? And Manoj said, if you can figure out those two things, you'll thrive with using AI.
I've been messing around with writing a book on sales with it, and it had me write 3 different books with sales. And you can ask it the right question and get it to do stuff. But one thing you have to worry about is I just heard this today, is when you write a blog and you use it for it, there's another software you want to drop it into and have it help you rewrite it so that it doesn't say that this was done by AI. Right? There's a thing out there that can tell you whether or not it was created by 90% by AI or 90% by a human, and you want it to be by a human. There's this actual software out there that will do that for you. So
it's the Jasper effect, right? Because before everybody knew about ChatGPT, so many people were using Jasper, and so there was an algorithm that was out there that started looking at, okay, who's legitimate and who's not.
Right, because I mean the blogs are great and it does amazing blogs, but if you drop it in this other software, it will change it just enough to where it's like a human wrote it.
Somebody's going to write the third software that's going to say, well, was it initially AI that was then AI? That's now,
and then now it's back to AI. Man.
Right.
Todd, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah.
We'll have you back when you fix your internet. But until then, it's been nice knowing you. Just kidding.
He just looks very stoic. That's all.
It's just a picture of him.
Right.
Again, there he is, crossing the arms. We'll talk about that'll be the next show. What does that body language mean when you cross your arms?
That's right. Well, I thought he was doing the realtor pose. Don't they all do that?
No, that's the laying on the couch with the going to the mall to get those pictures done. All right, Todd, thank you so much for coming in today and talking about what I got from today more than anything else was we were talking about niche marketing, but what I got is it's all about relationship. You need to build relationships in sales, period. No matter what market you're in, what niche you're in, where do you work? It's all, once you've realized it's not a transactional situation, it's about building relationships. That's when your life will change. And that's what you need to focus on. That's what I took away from today.
Absolutely. Relationships and over deliver, right? Because you can
under
still
promise
build a
and over
relationship,
deliver.
and if you don't deliver the goods, done. So
no doubt. No doubt.
All right.
That's how we get the business.
Thank you, Brian, for being here. I appreciate it. Todd, thank you so much for coming on Aces53. We really appreciate having you here.